What's up, traders? Andrew O'Connell here with Pristine Capital. Welcome to your market recap video. It is July 13th of 2022. Let's dive into today's action. We actually drove back from NY to PA last night. Pretty late at night, got in at like 2 a.m. in the morning. Then a few short hours later, we got that CPI data. We're going to go through the CPI print. Let's start off with our box scores here. We have the S&P 500 finished down 0.53%. Our NASDAQ QQQ finished down just a smidge, only down 0.21%. IWM small caps almost flat, down 0.09%. Our dogs of the Dow Jones finished down 0.72%, and our ARK Innovation ETF finished down 0.7%. We can see that pretty much all of these indices closed towards the middle end of their day's range, and the small caps and the NASDAQ specifically closed more towards the upper third of the day's range. Volatility actually contracted in most of these indices, which is very surprising given that the inflation data print actually came in a bit hotter than expected. And you can see breadth was pretty much negative across the board, but you can see we had 49% advancers in the small caps, and we had 44.6% up volume. My trend model remains at a -1. Now, team, I gotta say, this was like the most stupendous outcome we could have had in the markets. My baseline assumption was that we were going to get a deceleration in the CPI print today due to the energy prices, like for instance, like crude oil, WTI, Brent crude, all the commodities due to these declines that we had seen. But we actually got an acceleration. It was, horrible inflation print. And even though we got those commodity price declines, like for instance in crude, apparently gasoline prices in June just remained bid. So I do know that there's some stats saying like in July they've started to come down, but it appears that there is a lag between when the commodity prices fall and I guess when the prices at the pump actually fall. So interestingly enough, for today's session, I came in and I was like, okay, got this wrong. This is probably going to be a day where the market just gets absolutely annihilated for several straight. So it was interesting to see that some of the high growth names moved off the lows. That said, was this a pretty picture? No, not really. Google was down 2.32%, and you can see we had pullbacks in healthcare. We did see some strength in Tesla and Amazon, although Tesla's main, I believe their artificial intelligence engineer, like the person behind the autonomous driving, they did just resign. I believe that was after the bell. Sectors. Look at this. I mean, our leading sectors finished positive. ARC Genomics was up 1.18%, and XBI Biotech was up 1.67%. Other than that, we did see mostly pullbacks across the board. Let's be honest there. KWeb up 0.8%. Gold Miners up a smidge as well, up 2.17%. I gotta say, though, this action is not what I would have expected. I never thought I would be wrong, but then all of a sudden, the market just accommodated me. So, I'll take it. We'll have to see what happens. And I'm assuming what's going on here is perhaps there are some market participants that now they are seeing the peak in inflation. So some of these inflation-sensitive areas actually did okay today and caught bids. We'll take a look at those charts shortly. Growth was only down 0.32%. International momentum only down a smidge, and high beta was only down 0.22%. That is not risk off when high beta is actually one of the stronger areas of the market. Now let's take a look here. We'll go to our S&P 500. We'll just take a look at these indices. We are trading in the after hours. It is about 2 hours since the futures opened. The S&P 500, we had a battle today. Check this out. So in the first couple minutes after that CPI print at 8:30 a.m., the market really just cascaded to the downside. Did we end up making a lower low? We did not. We made a higher low, and then the market rallied. And it looked like we might actually close above the 20-day simple moving average or this monthly point of control. That did not happen. So it is important. Keep those levels on your radar. This 3807.75, as well as this 20-day simple moving average. Let's jump over to our hourly chart. What are we seeing here? On the hourly chart, we did pull back. This is the hourly candle when we got the CPI print. We were rallying ahead of the print, and we've really had just a big sell-off. Now here we are. We rallied throughout the session, looked pretty good, but then into the bell, you can see we we saw some weakness, and now here we are. Could we make another higher low? Now, tomorrow we do have the PPI print. That is the Producer's Price Index. Now, I would imagine that because the CPI came in so hot, is there a high likelihood that the PPI does? Yeah, certainly. So I think, heading into tomorrow, given that we had a sell-off today, I don't think market participants are going to be like super shocked if it comes in ahead of expectations, but we'll have to see. It's really just another binary event. And then tomorrow, earnings season kicks off. But let's go over to the NASDAQ and see how that one looked. NASDAQ, wow, the NASDAQ actually did finish above the 20-day simple moving average. So this is noteworthy. Or like what should have happened is we got that hotter than expected inflation print. The market should have just slipped into the abyss, but it did not. Let's look at the Russell 2000. Russell 2000 was down 0.72%, and then Russell 2000 basically closed right on top of that 20-day simple moving average, and the Dow Jones finished below that 20-day simple moving average. So we are starting to see some divergences within these indices. Now check out the ARK Innovation ETF. Now you would expect if inflation came in hot that this thing should just get obliterated, right? Well, the ARK Innovation ETF opened up on the lows and then rallied throughout the session. It's not like we closed on the highs of the day, and I think that makes sense given we still have the PPI. But this is some decent price action. We finished above the 20-day simple moving average. We also finished above the 50-day simple moving average. So it's tough to really complain there, given that this is happening off of an inflation miss. Now let's take a look at some of these other groups. Let's take a look at biotech. Biotech actually finished positive, looking pretty solid. We do have some stocks that have been leading. Let's see what those are doing, like Celsius. This has been a nice leader off the lows. Celsius put in a nice candle here. One of our Pristine Capital members took this trade. SWIR, some of our other members are in this one as well. SWIR ended up finishing out positive as well. It's not like a fantastic performance, but again, for a day when we got this CPI print, not too shabby. We'll take it. And let's take a look at what the home builders did. This group was starting to gain some strength. Yeah, and home builders also finished out positive. So I think for today's session, I'm going to just chalk this up in the blessings category, where it's not every day. Sometimes you're right on your thesis, and the market still doesn't cooperate with you. In this case, I was basically wrong on the thesis, and the market so far is playing ball. So let's see what happens tomorrow for the PPI. We are going to start to get company earnings out as well. But with that being said, that about does it for today's market recap video. I would say there's some more questions than answers after that inflation print. But we'll have to see what the river brings. The price action does not lie. We have to remember that ARK was pretty positive on the price action today. All right, everyone. Have a great night. We will see you all tomorrow.